Hey everyone, this is Spiral King again. I hope everything is going well. Today we're getting into a very interesting topic about bipolar, right? So bipolar, ups and downs. Um, what does it have to do with spiral dynamics? I've been thinking about this for a long time. I think I made a video or two on it. In general, bipolar is unconnected to spiral dynamics. It's completely separate. At the same time, it's bound to have overlap for various reasons. The main reason is because between the masculine stage and feminine stages, you have what people call bipolar. So from the feminine stage to the masculine stage, you're going to take on more values or different values. And people will say, oh, you're so different. Or why are you doing X or Y? You should be doing this or that. And then they try to hold on to those values, but they really want to do that, and they're like oscillating, and they could look like bipolar for that reason. They get upset. I want to do this, and they lash out. So bipolar has two main facets. You have lashing out and not lashing out. You have happy and you have depressed or sad, right? So, and there's other components that I didn't mention yet that I will. So from a masculine stage to a feminine stage, you're going to have bipolar as well, because the masculine wants to retain what it has. It doesn't want to lose any identity, and it's proud of what it's built. And the feminine kind of has to cut down that. So it's challenging for the ego of a masculine stage. So therefore, anytime you go into a feminine stage, it could be challenging. So when I entered into the turquoise, I had a lot of challenges, but the challenges are maximized because most people entering from yellow to turquoise often haven't sat long enough in yellow. So if you sat long enough in yellow and green and orange, the transitions will be smoother and easy. But if you're rushing the process or you skipped steps, then that can be really challenging, because wider epiphanies are happening. Things are literally changing in the brain. You also have bipolar, based on my discovery, every 4 stages. So every 4th stage is something called transcendence. And I will make a separate video, hopefully, on that. It's very important. And I do believe people in the future will use that model to understand spiral dynamics, so we'll get into that at a later date. So spiral dynamics happens because you're expanding your mind. A completely different change happens. And the transition into that transcendent stage will involve breaking down barriers that are really, really difficult to accept. So from my experience, breaking down the barriers from yellow to turquoise was realizing that ambition is a waste of time. It's not to say you won't have ambition, but you'll approach ambition differently. You'll approach it as if the person that you're speaking to is yourself. So who are you competing with? And so that changes all the dynamics of competition there on out. And from aubergine to clear, so far there is bipolar because it's transcendence. It's something I noticed. And bipolar you experience it in terms of hostility, but it's a lot more cooled down than it used to be. And it's temporary, and it's softer, and it's more extreme in some ways. But it's also lighter in other ways, in the fact that it's briefer. You're more aware of what you're feeling, and you're more extreme about it because you're aware of what your id wants. Your id wants happiness. Your id wants murder. Your id wants extremes. It wants raw sex. It wants blood, lust. Everything in its extremes. So therefore, when you're transitioning stages into transcendence, your id is coming out. That core part of you that is just pure raw energy of archetype comes out. And as such, you can experience bipolar. Now, my claim is that if you're doing things slowly, then these things get mitigated. And I also believe that if you don't have any rung issues, meaning you have your physiological needs met, you've gotten them met, the adolescent stuff wasn't that problematic growing up, and transitions throughout your life weren't terrible, and scarring was to a minimum in terms of baggage, then in such a case, later on, you won't really experience difficulty with these transcendence stages, or so much difficulty. It will be tolerable, or tolerable without the ego having backlash. Wow, I think I covered most of the stuff in just 5 minutes. I'm actually pleased with myself. There are minutiae, though, that I'll hopefully mention in the description box, so people have a rundown of all the things that you may anticipate or wonder about. Because bipolar is not integral to spiral dynamics, but it's bound to happen. And when something is bound to happen, it's pretty much the same thing. Also, what we consider bipolar is just the ego coming out, and that happens. That's a natural part of evolution, of psychological evolution, adjustment periods, which we've discussed. So, I didn't discuss Coral. So basically, my assertion is that Coral does not experience bipolar, but what he experiences is the sadness of bipolar if he's trying to fit into society. If he has a job, then he'll get really depressed about his job. I don't think he'll lash out and go rageful, but I haven't seen enough studies of corals to know for sure. My intuition says it's not normal to lash out, and if you are lashing out, the ego is probably transferring to turquoise. Could you be transferring to teal? I don't recall the transfer being too difficult to teal, but it was. It was depression, and there was extreme times of hate, but it was really small in comparison to turquoise. But once you get into teal, it's literally like you're just straight up, just really calm, and there's nothing to worry about. So that's something to you'll be happy to know. There'll be other things to focus on, to work on, but it's a good stage to find peace. If you have a hobby to meditate, it's a good stage for you. Hobby to contemplate, it's a good stage for you. So that sums up bipolar in relation to spiral dynamics. I hope you enjoyed. Have a good day.